Welcome this evening to the Silverton Mayoral and Town Candidates Forum. I'm going to just give you a quick description of how this evening is going to roll. First and foremost, we do not have any public audience, but we do have all 10 candidates attending this evening. There were 4 prepared questions that the candidates have had time to digest and plan for communicating about this evening. And then there are also off-the-cuff audience-related questions. Now, the way that those questions came about was I received emails, we received conversations on the street, and then I also have my president of the Silverton Chamber, Cliff Pinto, and secretary-treasurer Colin Peterman managing that part. So right now, I do not know what those questions are going to be. So we are going to just go ahead and roll into candidates tonight. So the way the room is set up is we have the 2 mayoral candidates right here at the beginning. And then we have starting with the 8 other town trustee candidates. The way that this evening is going to work is we are going to have one mayoral candidate answer first, and then the second, and then we are going to swap that. And then we're going to do the same thing through the candidates. The first guy to answer, then the second person will answer the first time. That way it's fair and equitable, so that not everyone answers first always, and not everyone answers last always. So we are going to begin this evening with the mayoral candidates introducing themselves. They are going to each get 1 minute to explain who they are and why they're running. And then we are going to run in, starting with Mr. Harper, into the 8 town trustee candidates. So we're going to start that now. And Miss Melanie Russick from San Juan Development is an actual timekeeper. So the candidates have a time in front of them. Again, we are going to do 1 minute introductions. And then we are going to go into the 4 prepared questions where they get 2 minutes each. And then we are going to roll into community-related off-the-cuff questions where they again go back to 1 minute. The reason why these times are put in place is because we have 10 candidates. We want to make this evening concise, consistent, and most informative for the town of Silverton voters. So let's begin the evening. And we're going to start here with the mayoral candidates. And we are going to have Melanie Russick start the timer. Ready? Go.
Hello, I'm Gilbert Archuleta. I'm running for mayor for the town of Silverton. I believe I'm a great candidate to be mayor due to the fact that I have worked with the town budget and finances for over 17 years. I have a great understanding of what the general fund is and also what the enterprise fund is. I believe that with my knowledge and my leadership skills, I've been with the fire department 43 years, 33 years as chief. I feel I could pull this off and do a great job for the town. I would also, if I'm elected mayor, I would implement all the committees that were here prior. I feel that right now we need to get back on track with everything that's going on. We have to understand and watch how we spend our money. And I would appreciate your vote to be the mayor of Silverton for the next 4 years. Thank you.
And then next gentleman.
Greetings, Silverton. My name is Shane Furman. Tonight is an honor for me. I visited Silverton more than a decade ago and spent much of my time after that first visit dreaming about how I might someday live here. The mountains captured my imagination and the community welcomed me home. We're living in extraordinary times of uncertainty, facing a global pandemic, and it's more important than ever that we support each other. Right now, there are people in our community working to divide us, spreading rumors, posting negative ads, trying to scare you away from supporting the people that are willing to serve our community and to improve our quality of life. Tonight, I say to them, join us. Rather than tear us apart, make us stronger. Enable us to thrive so that we're ready to face the challenges to come. I will do my best to lead by example. I'm a member of the school board. My partner Haley served on the board for the Learning Center. I've been a coach for the Winter Sports Club, and I'm currently on the Kendall Mountain committee. It's up to all of us to champion the community and its many voices. Our leadership will need to listen carefully and often and be capable of turning the community's vision into actions. When you vote on April 7th, vote for a unified, strong, and capable Silverton. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jim Harper. I'm here tonight as a candidate for the position of trustee for the town of Silverton. I'd like to take a brief moment to thank my fellow candidates who decided to step into the political arena and support our community. David Dibble for recording tonight, Deanne Gallegos and the Chamber of Commerce, and all of Silverton and its staff for allowing us to be here this evening during this COVID-19 global event. Thank you, each and every one of you. I know that each of you watching tonight have experienced our town and community from varied viewpoints and from different involvements. For myself, that experience began when traveling up the canyon riding the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad. That was my first time. Then I later served and still continue today as an ambassador to this community and to this town with the Silverton Chamber of Commerce. Oh, my time's up.
Mel, is that timer working appropriately?
Yep, it's
for you?
good.
Okay.
Is it?
Hi there, my name is Trisha Lucia. I'm running also for the town trustee. I do want to thank everybody for being here tonight and for everybody to take the time out of their evening to share with us. I am a new member to the Silverton community. I've been here for 2 years, fell in love with the mountains and absolutely love it. I have decided that it's important to contribute to our community, and I think that representing all of the different viewpoints for our community is really important, and I would really like the opportunity to do that for the community. Thank you.
I'm Jordan Bierma. I'm also running for town trustee. I'm a high school teacher here in town, and my wife and I own a local business. My family has a long history in Silverton owning and running the Great Divide. I grew up visiting here and selling rocks to folks getting off the train, and worked summers here to put myself through college, and always wanted to live here. And for the last over 8 years, my wife and I have happily called San Juan County home. And I want to be a town trustee because I want to help build a sustainable and strong community in Silverton and help find common ground in our diverse population that we have here, and also just positively influence the future of Silverton.
Hi, my name is Calvin Davenport. I'm 31 years old, and I've worked at Silverton Mountain for 10 winters, and I've lived in town for 6 years full time. When I'm not working at the mountain, I work as a carpenter. I'm married, and my wife is named Megan, and she's a teacher at the school. I'm currently the secretary of the Silverton Single Track Society, which is the mountain bike organization here in town. I've been in that position for 5 years. I've also been coaching the ski racing kids on Wednesdays. And I moved to Silverton for the skiing, but stayed for the community that I found here. I like Silverton the way it is, but I know that growth is inevitable. And I would like to see Silverton grow in a positive direction that leads to more year-round residents and more year-round businesses. To maintain good quality of life for residents, I would like to support more outdoor recreation activities, which would contribute to our economy. We make improvements to infrastructure in places like Public Library, Columbine Park, Kendall Mountain Recreation Area that would not only improve the quality of life for current citizens, but could help attract new ones in the future. Thanks.
Mel, should we do something different with the timer?
I think I should do it from back here and just give them a 5-second flash when it's ready to go.
Okay.
Up you guys, Sally.
Because it just keeps moving.
Are you ready, Mel?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Sally Barney, and I'm running for the town council because Silverton has given me so much, and I would be honored to give back. I started the Silverton School Ski Team here 10 years ago. I've been a member of the school leadership committees, and I'm currently the president of the board at Silverton Family Learning Center. My whole adult life has unfolded here. 16 years ago, Kim White hired me as a novice teacher, and a year later, I was in the most beautiful classroom I can imagine. It's in Silverton that I bought my first home, got married, brought our daughters home from the hospital, and have made my closest friends of my life. I've always loved it here. I was actually happy to live in a place where snow stayed on the ground all winter long. I love I can ski to school in a snowstorm and take family hikes above 10,000 feet. Living here is the good life, for me, but it does require a little extra grit and resilience. I'm running to be a part of a team to make Silverton work for everyone, and so that everyone here feels like they belong.
So because the one-timer is so obnoxious, we're gonna go to a different system where Mel's gonna do it off her phone and she's gonna give you a 10-second warning. So keep talking as comfortably as possible, and then when you see Mel's hands flash up, 10, and then she'll do a wrap. You ready, Mel?
Yep, go ahead.
My name is Kevin Baldwin. I live in Silverton for 10 years now, and I have a small business as well. The reason I'm in Silverton is my wife and I, years ago, had made plans to retire to a small town and run a small church. Well, she passed away 15 years ago, so I have not had the privilege to have her, but I am living our dream together. Silverton is a cool place. I really like the ruggedness of it, the way you have to work at living, and then I also enjoy the train. I enjoy snowmobiling, motorcycling, jeeping, hiking, and I used to have a bicycle, but I'm getting a little old and slow. So it's a very varied lifestyle, but it's a beautiful place. The last 8 years I've been kind of disappointed because of the way the town has been running. It does impact us as individuals, and I'd like to see that change, and I hope to be able to have the opportunity to help make a change. Thank you.
I am Judy Graham, currently a trustee. We must continue stabilizing the town with good personnel practices. We have to get over our almost perennial habit of losing town administrators. Thankfully, we have John Ryder. We will continue to give you transparency and simplicity in financial statements. We will help cut costs, but keep our vision expansive. I believe in being sensitive to all kinds of people, minority status, and gender issues, and all ethnicities. We want to match our beautiful surroundings by equal amounts of kindness and tolerance. Let's do a better job promoting the arts. I'll admit I'm a little conflicted. I am a painter who did 29 views of Velocity Basin.
Good evening, my name is Jess Wiegert, and those who do not know me, I am an incumbent trustee. And first and foremost, I would just like to thank the public for giving me the opportunity to represent you over the past 4 years as a member of the town council here. I feel over that time I have grown immensely in my position, and I bring experience and knowledge necessary to continue with momentum and continuity amongst the town board. I also believe that we have a very strong staff on the town, and I would like to continue to support them, their ideas, and their efforts to make Silverton a better place to live for community as well as for the visitors who like to come here. I would really appreciate your vote in this upcoming election. Thank you.
All right, so that was introduction to the candidates, and now we are gonna go into the question part of it. These 4 prepared questions are gonna have 2 minutes. So Mel is gonna still go through the 2-minute timer, but we're still gonna give you the 10-second warning. And again, we're gonna start our process of mixing it up, right? So since Gilbert started the evening, then we're gonna go to Shane. And then these 2 are gonna go back and forth. And then since Jim Harper answered first, now it's gonna go to Trish Lucier who's gonna answer first, and then we're gonna go around the circle with ending with Jim, and then again around the section. So first prepared question of the evening was, please identify a current economic development initiative happening in our community that you support and suggestions on how to get it implemented beyond the planning stage. Mr. Furman?
Thank you. Right now, I'm actively part of 2 economic development initiatives. I'm a member of the Kendall Mountain Recreation Area Committee that I'll speak about later this evening. And I'm also working with School Superintendent Kim White and the rest of the school board on plans for the Stanley Placer. The Stanley Placer is the large piece of land next to the Silverton Family Learning Center. The school purchased the Stanley Plaza in 2017, and some of the ideas for that land include a rec center, a science center, and possibly dormitories for visiting teachers and students. The school is currently applying for planning grants, and I'm supporting these efforts and excited about what we might accomplish. If the school is successful, these new facilities will be a huge step towards our community becoming more self-sufficient and likely to attract more families to become Silverton residents. Silverton is facing many challenges today. Our infrastructure is aging and needs significant investment. We need more long-term housing, more job opportunities, and more support for people that are struggling. A lot of these issues will be solved through economic diversification and growth. By building community-focused facilities on the Stanley Plaza, I think we'll attract more families to Silverton, which will help us to begin to address many of our other challenges. Thank you.
Mr. Archuleta?
Yes, I would work with San Juan Development. Last week I was lucky enough to attend a meeting to where we were discussing the possibility of bringing in another fiber optic line, and work with San Juan Development and San Miguel Power, who are going to put a new power line from the Array substation to the Burrow Bridge substation, and by doing that, they are considering running fiber optic with that power line. We would work hand in hand with San Miguel and convince them to run the fiber optic to the Burrow Bridge substation. After that, we would work together with San Juan Development with Tri-State Power to bring it in for the last 3 miles into Silverton. And then during this whole time, we would be looking for contractors that would be able to disperse the fiber into Silverton, which would give Silverton what we've been needing for years, a redundancy line, a backup line for the fiber optic, which would mean during the 4th of July, or even as the Great Divide Fire, we would not have an outage of fiber in this town. And by doing that, we would be able to entice more business people to come to Silverton and to open up their businesses. Not only them, but residents could bring it into their homes and hopefully create jobs inside their home. By doing so, we would create jobs, and hopefully we could create enough work to establish 10, 15, possibly 20 jobs in town, full-time jobs, and also hopefully we could bring students into the school system. And that's what Silverton has to be based on, is some kind of factor of bringing more business to town. We know importing stuff and trying to develop here and exporting is hard to make it work. By bringing fiber, we could get this done. Thank you.
Tricia Lucier?
All right, the current economic development initiative that I support in the town most of this time is the Silverton Area Trails Plan. I support this the most because I feel like it's one of the most achievable, and it has such a wide variety of uses. If we do develop the trail system in the area, it can bring lots of more people to town for mountain biking, hiking, all kinds of different uses. As far as putting that plan into place, I think there are a ton of grants available just with a short amount of time of researching. There's so much available to us that we can use for mountain bikes, for hiking, any type of green planning. There's tons of grant money available. So getting that implemented would be, working with the staff to get grants written and get those plans implemented. I think the important part there, because it is such a vast and encompassing plan, would be to start with the low-hanging fruit, taking the smaller projects, prioritizing it out, making your 30-day, your 60-day, your 6-month and year plans so that we can start and not wait for years down the road to get it started. We can start with smaller things like getting signing up so that people can recognize these trails. I don't know about you all, but visiting some of our trails, it's hard to find the trailheads, so just putting the trail signs up would be an improvement, and it wouldn't cost that much money. Also, things like taking the trails that are already in existence and working on those first, and doing the smaller projects first. I think it's very achievable, and I think it would bring a lot of people to town. Thank you.
All right, as both the mayoral candidates brought up, I'm in support of initiatives that help us create a more sustainable year-round employment and affordable housing options for our residents. And I think part of that is furthering our access to high-speed internet and expanding our fiber optic networks that we have. I think that this would lead to more use of our shared workspaces that we're developing, and also potentially attract remote workers that could have easy access and reliable access to the internet. I also think if possible, potentially reevaluating some of our building ordinances and building codes, to provide more incentive to have home buyers who are local residents who want to live here year-round. And whether this looking at some of the covenants in the Anvil subdivision and reevaluating those options if possible, or options on tap fees and utilities for people who want to build new houses and buy lots and develop from there. Thank you.
The current economic development initiative that I've been working on for over the last couple of years is the Baker Park Trail System. So this is part of the Silverton Area Trails plans, and the Baker Park Trail System calls for creating 30 miles of new single-track trail, which would be mostly centered around Hancock Gulch, very close to town. These would be trails that you could ride to or walk to from town. And they would be user-friendly trails for all different types of groups. You could have little kids going on their first mountain bike ride ever to professional downhillers coming up here to ride some of these trails. So it's a trail network that could potentially satisfy all types of riders. It would bring a diverse population of people visiting, so we would get more mountain bikers into town, staying at hotels and eating at restaurants. It promotes a healthy lifestyle, and it would just increase the quality of life for Silvertonians if we had somewhere that we could go that was close to town where we could recreate. So we're currently waiting on the BLM to release their travel management plan. It was supposed to be out in December, but it's been being delayed for a number of reasons. Once we get the BLM's travel management plan released, we will have a much easier time pursuing funding, so we could ask for grants, and in the meantime, I think we could just drum up a volunteer work base to help create some of these trails. So it's an economic driver that I've been working on for the last couple of years with the Silverton Single Track Society, and it would just be good for everybody, I believe.
Okay, well, I've been working on Kendall as well, and we're going to talk about that later, so I'm going to leave the Kendall project for that question, but I'm with a lot of you guys on the outdoor recreation. I think these projects support economic development here where we have an abundance of outdoor recreational resources, lots of land, lots of beauty. Outdoor recreation projects can be effective economic drivers and capitalize what we have in surplus. I also support the Bakers Park Trails project and other projects like that, maybe along the Animas River corridor. I think these efforts enhance the quality of life for people who already live in Silverton. They also provide fun, healthy experiences for visitors and potentially entice new families to relocate and live here as year-round members of our community who are looking for a lifestyle rich in outdoor experiences. To move these projects along beyond the planning stages, I suggest we maintain and support our current highly competent town staff. Lisa Branner, John Ryder, John Seitz, Lisa Adair, Bill McDougall, they all have a high work capacity and are incredibly dedicated to our town. For projects to come to fruition, I also think we can't only rely on volunteer committees alone. We need to support the staff working on them. Also a shout out to the remote workers locating here. I'd like to take some inspiration from the county to creatively address the housing shortage, diversify our economic model so our economy can adapt and weather financial, global, and climate changes beyond our control.
My name's Kevin Baldwin. As a reminder, I believe that we need to have some more year-round businesses. When mining was here, that's one thing that helped the town and the county to survive and to thrive, was because the husband or the man of the house had a solid job, and then the women and the children could work in restaurants and stores and so on, so that the families could make it and have a good time as well, instead of just surviving. A lot of people are struggling and just barely getting by. I was on the Chamber of Commerce board for a few years, and one thing I suggested I'd like to see again, I don't know what all is involved, because it does affect us, and as well as it involves us in engaging other companies. I'd like to see, for example, like Jeep, Polaris, Bombardier, they make Ski-Doo and Can-Am, and the mountain bike specialized in other companies, and then footwear and things like that. I'd like to see for them to possibly consider putting a small shop or a small outlet here to where they could sell or distribute their goods, and that would employ maybe 1 to 2 families, or I should say 1 to 2, maybe more, 3 to 5 people, and then those people would have good paying jobs to where they could have families, and as has been said, support the school and have full-time residents here year-round. And that in turn would help the rest of the county to flourish as far as the service-oriented people that work in town, the restaurants and shops. Thank you.
I have lived in Silverton for 30 years and been on 11 boards of directors over the past 40. I have always believed in supporting any endeavor that has energy behind it, whether it be in the arts, the sciences, or in business. Since I've been on the town board, the chamber board, and the tourism board, we have worked together to develop and promote events and organizations that will bring people to town and therefore the benefits of their spending. With the counterproductive changeover of town administrators, the town board has given attention to personnel policies and procedures. We all know a constant loss of town administrators is extremely costly and disorienting for all of us. Whilst stabilization measures are underway, the trustees have pushed forward with citizen participation in Blair Street improvements, 4th of July, Kendall Mountain Recreation, the Creative District started by Carol Wilkins, and many town events. We as trustees must always be supportive of our businesses and our entrepreneurs such as Aaron and Jen Grill. We are past the planning stages in various arts organizations, such as the Silverton Theater Mind, which needs awareness and community support. The important thing will be to continue on the path of stabilization so we can move forward. I couldn't emphasize stabilization and forward movement enough.
I think the ideas that we've heard from the other trustees are excellent. I do support the trails plan that Silverton residents have been working on. I also think bringing backup in the form of fiber optics is also very important for the success of businesses. Although I would like to talk about the Blair Street revitalization project. Right now, over many years, the businesses on Blair Street, the Blair Street Historical District, they have felt neglected. They felt like the neglected stepchild of the businesses on Green Street. Town staff has recently been working to support upgrades on Blair Street, including potentially new board stamped sidewalks, more visual attraction in the form of flowers and planters, and a rebuild of the public restrooms at Columbine Park. Rebuilding the restrooms at Columbine Park is something I feel is extremely important. That is one of the first places that visitors who come here from the train actually go to visit. And right now I feel like the facilities are a black eye on the community. I'd also like to continue support events that utilize the Mike Garriak Bandstand in Columbine Park, and also events such as the Silverton Farmers Market and Silverton's Summer Sound Series. By supporting these initiatives on Blair Street, we can make businesses feel like it's a viable option to support a business that will utilize Blair Street, notorious Blair Street, and we can put to use many of the buildings that are on Blair Street that are currently vacant right now. Thank you.
All right, so we are on question number 2 for this evening. Second question. Now that OHVs have been allowed on the town of Silverton streets with a specific OHV route, what are the positive and negative impacts you have observed?
Excuse me, we didn't give Mr. Harper.
Oh, I'm sorry, Harper. Thank you, Jess.
I get it. This is a great question, thank you. We should be focusing on shovel-ready projects. Communications infrastructure, by the completion of the fiber optic cable, this is how we move forward. I have worked with and sat on the boards of several numerous community organizations, Region 9, San Juan Economic Development, the COG, Southwest Council of Governments. We can work with San Miguel Power, Tri-State Electrical Co-op, and with our local neighboring governments, elected officials, state and federal agencies. Creating a true, cyclical, redundant network is crucial to the future of our community, allowing us the true ability to provide the essential services throughout our town and region. How do we do this and why? Why do we do this? Safety and security, number 1. 2 times in 2019, our entire communications grid was taken down, thus preventing any and all communications between one another and throughout the region. Economic diversification and sustainability. Strong internet, fast communication equals more growth and additional commerce, opening us up and allowing for telecommuters and new businesses. We want young families with school-age children, young professionals. This is what's going to propel us forward.
All right, thank you for keeping me square, Jess. I got confused by my own rotation. Question number 2. Now that OHVs have been allowed on the town of Silverton streets with a specific OHV route, what are the positive and negative impacts you have observed? And as mayor or town trustee, what would be your recommendation for how the community should proceed on this issue? Mr. Furman? Or is it Mr. Archuleta?
That's me. Just so everybody knows, I am in favor of OHVs, ATVs coming into Silverton. I believe it brings sales tax revenue to the town. I think they're beneficial to the community. I believe the current route system is confusing not only for the people entering town on their OHVs, but also to the community itself. I feel that we could save ourselves some time and headaches by using the resources we have. And one of our biggest resources is the Sheriff's Department. I feel if we work closely with them, the town council and the Sheriff's Department, Bruce Conrad and his staff, we could come up with a solution to make this beneficial to everybody. We need to understand that the tax revenue that these vehicles bring into town benefit the whole community, not just part of the community. So by using the resources we have, we might be able to relieve some of the congestion on the other street and at the same time relieve some of the pressure on the Sheriff's Department of having to look for people that are confused on the streets that they're not supposed to be on. And I feel by doing that, it would work for everybody. All we gotta do is work together and we can solve this issue and make it good for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. OHVs are a large and important part of Silverton's economy. Many people in our community rely on them. OHV tourism also requires a good amount of spending by the town and county on law enforcement, road maintenance, and EMS services. Although our current summer economic drivers are working really well today, I think it's unhealthy to rely on only one or two things to support our economy, and that more diversification is needed. I'm really excited to see our progression with the Bakers Park bike trails and additional walking trails accessible from town as part of the Silverton Travel Management Plan. And I'd also like to learn what the town staff and trustees and county commissioners have already learned from other communities working through similar issues. If there are model communities we can identify that are ahead of us, I'd like to go and visit them and find out what works and what doesn't. At the same time, I would like to improve parking, access, and enforcement. I think we need additional staging areas for parking trailers and OHVs so that we have fewer issues with our guests finding parking in and around town, and hopefully also reducing some of the enforcement and route issues that we have currently. Thank you.
Mr. Grandma?
So I recognize that Silverton is a tourist economy, and OHVs and ATV users are one part of that diversity of tourist income, and we do get sales tax revenue and revenue from permits from them. I think some of the cons is just the lack of ability to enforce some of our OHV guidelines. It puts a lot of extra stress on I think our law enforcement and crews, and it takes them away from other things that they're busy with in the summer. And I think that lack of ability to enforce does lead to some safety issues, whether it's speeding or being off route or having underage drivers, things that are associated with that. And it does also add to our downtown summer congestion, having more automated traffic downtown. I'm not opposed to OHV use in town, but I think our current system just isn't functioning and it's not working for us. I think we can come up with some solutions by having either additional law enforcement just to administer and enforce those routes and laws for OHVs in town. Again, so it's not taken away from other resources, or adding additional staging or parking areas that can shuttle people into town. Thank you.
Well, OHVs in town obviously have some positive benefits. They increase revenue to businesses in town. We get sales tax from them. It makes it very convenient for people who live in town or people visiting to get from wherever they're staying out into the backcountry. However, there are some negative impacts. It creates a lot of problems for the sheriff's department, obviously, and the EMS end up getting more search and rescue calls. There's noise issues, and I feel it degrades the town charm a little bit. It also just has made a noticeable increase in the use in the backcountry too, and just has created a crowded situation all around, whether it's parking in town or congestion in town, straight into the backcountry where there are lines of OHVs trying to pass each other on trails and stuff like that. So how to proceed forward? Perhaps in town there could be better signage, more education. I feel we definitely need to take pressure off the sheriff's department. They could use a whole enforcement team to enforce the town, or perhaps in the future we just decide to make changes to the route.
Okay, I see the positives of OHVs as a part of diversifying our recreational options here, and for the recreationalists who live in Silverton and many who visit. OHVs do seem to like to come here in the summer, and that must have some benefit for summer Silverton businesses. I was glad to see OHV visitors here during the fire when the train wasn't running. The negatives I've observed of OHVs in Silverton is the strain they place on law enforcement, road maintenance, EMS services, a lot of what Calvin just talked about. I don't have a good sense, and I haven't seen good data on the costs and the benefits to the town. So I think as a responsible steward of our town budget, I'd like to explore a system to collect some data on what financial gains we are receiving specifically from OHV use and how much it's costing us to service the activity in terms of enforcement, medical services, and road maintenance. I don't know if I'm really ready to make a recommendation on any changes to the route or the rules as they exist right now without additional information, so we can make the best decision.
I've been heavily involved in OHVs. I was part of the ballot initiative to get it on the ballot. We got them here to town. I support them for multiple reasons, economically as well. There are people who have health restrictions or are crippled in some way or another, and it's a great way to see this beautiful area on the planet. There are negatives. You can hear about them. It's dust, it's noise, it's speed. They're killing themselves up in the hills, and that's not good. My opinion is enforcement is the issue that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed quickly and with a number of people. I've talked to people who come from out of town who ride OHVs here. It's not uncommon when they go to Moab and to other places that they pay $20, $30 a machine to have it here. I'm very strong for that. I would like to see a fee on Jeeps, motorcycles, ATVs, and I'll be honest with you, bicycles as well. Whether they're motorized bicycles or not, they need to pay something because they do use the roads. Use that fee, and it needs to be discussed as to what their fee is. Say it's $30 per person or per vehicle, I mean. They pay for that to come in here. I also, part of the initiative was to give the town the authority to change the route. I recommend we open the town, because the sheriff has made that recommendation in the past, to open or close it. I recommend opening it so they can go anywhere. They're not having to worry about where OHVs are parking. They're more concerned about violations and keeping the speed under check. This issue goes farther into the county, which I think involves Hinsdale, Ouray, and San Juan counties, to where we should have enforcement out there. People can think they can get away with things and run out there. I've seen it as a Jeeper. Myself, I have 3 Jeeps and a truck. I would be paying $120 if the fee was $30 a vehicle. Anyhow, I think enforcement needs to be stepped up greatly. We need to make them fund it. Thank you.
The OHV issue is challenging to the extent that it narrows our economic vision of ourselves. If OHVs move us away from economic diversification, it's a problem. To the extent to which it narrows our vision of who we want to be, moving away from cultural diversification, it's a problem. If we care about branding, and if our brand is related to the environment, beauty, and stepping back in time, it's a problem. We as a community need an honest and open conversation about this subject. It's a controversial subject, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. I've had the Wingate House Bed and Breakfast for 30 years and have benefited financially from many customers that experience the wilderness using motors. Personally, I appreciate the wilderness as a solitary and quiet backpacker and have backpacked all over the Waimanooch wilderness. It's time that this community has an honest conversation about OHVs that goes to the heart of who we want to be and how much we want to share with each other. It goes to the heart of how we really feel about the mountains. If we talk about this without rancor and using real data, we can do anything.
Throughout my 4 years as a town trustee, this has been an issue that has been revisited time after time again. I feel that through the public votes, the residents of Silverton have spoken clearly. They want the town board, town trustees to be responsible for any modifications or adjustments to the town route. There is no denying that Silverton has a long heritage of four-wheel drive and jeeping, with the Alpine Loop right out our back door and numerous backcountry passes and roads. It's clear to see that Allowing OHVs to come into the business district makes it easy for people who are camping in the county to drive side by side or OHV into town and eat dinner at a restaurant or visit the shops, come in for lunch, and then be able to drive back to their campground. But I would question the actual sales tax revenue that we've seen. For instance, last year with the large snow year and the numerous avalanche across the backcountry roads, many high country roads were not open until the beginning of July. And yet, still last year, we saw the most sales tax that we've ever seen in Silverton. As many of the other candidates have stated, one of the biggest issues is the demands that allowing OHVs in town places on law enforcement. I've seen many OHVs driving above the speed limit, not obeying the route, driving off the route, running stop signs, creating issues that tax the law enforcement services. There's also a detriment to air quality that we've noticed on the dirt roads here in town, noise pollution, and also deterioration of county roads.
Thank you. OHVs are a large part and growing segment of our summer economy. Like all things, we need to find the balance of those who enjoy our backcountry and our natural settings. 87% of our surrounding lands are owned by the federal government. We cannot further burden Sheriff Conrad, the San Juan County Sheriff's Office, our county road crews, Silverton residents with the financial requirements needed to groom the roads and continue to finance the backcountry. We can't do it. Over the past 2 years, I've successfully invited and discussed our elected officials from the region and the federal government. We have sat down with Sheriff Conrad. We've sat down with our local officials and had these discussions. We've had good conversations, and we've been able to have these folks come in and understand what it is we need. We need to press the federal government. They need to be required to pitch in and ease the burden of the 700 residents here in Silverton and San Juan County. Thank you.
All right, so I believe the positive impacts of the OHVs, it does help with the diversification and the lesser of the dependence upon one particular item here in town. It definitely, it increases the tax revenue, like everybody has said. Our businesses definitely thrive from the benefits of having all of the tourists come in with the OHVs. It does have negative impacts. Nobody can deny it is definitely burdensome to local law enforcement. The increased traffic, the noise, the dust, those are common complaints. I do believe that the town has spoken on more than one occasion. They have voted for them to come to town. They have voted for them to stay and to keep the OHV route the same as it was originally implemented. I think that we don't really necessarily need to reinvent the wheel. I think we need to make minor adjustments to help with the enforcement. And they can be simple things as far as making the roads adjacent to the grocery store and to the hotels like the Wyman and the Grand, just those little side roads so that people can park there and not be confused about where they're allowed to park. It's just small things that I think can make a huge difference and relieve some of the stress. And I also agree with what other people have said. Use stickers, I think, would help generate funds to help with the law enforcement, not just here in town, but also in the backcountry. A lot of people come into town here and they're used to paying use fees in other places, and I think that's something that we should definitely incorporate. Thank you.
All right, so we are on to prepared question number 3. The town of Silverton has been spearheading the expansion of Kendall Mountain Recreation and Ski Area for all 4 seasons recreation. What do you perceive as the pros and cons of this project to be?
Thank you. Through a series of visioning sessions and online surveys, the Silverton community, including our school kids, told us that they want more at Kendall Mountain. The top winter priority from the visioning sessions is expanded lifts and ski terrain. The top summer priority is more trails for hiking and mountain biking. The town of Silverton formed a committee to research and recommend a master plan for the Kendall expansion, and I was selected to participate as a member of that committee. For almost a year, I've been participating in meetings nearly every other week. Expanding Kendall will provide more outlets for recreation right in town. And I'd like to emphasize that. Recreation right in town, creating a direct connection with the town. This will improve our economy both in terms of additional revenue and additional jobs. As with any big idea, there are many questions. Some of the most significant questions are, how do we accomplish these goals without compromising what is important to us as a community? We need any development at Kendall to enhance Silverton as a destination that tourists want to visit, but making sure the community comes first is the #1 priority. Another question is, how do we make sure our town infrastructure can support the growth of Kendall? This is a tough issue. We haven't seen much growth in Silverton for a few decades, and maybe we don't grow. But if growth does happen, we need to have a plan in place to make sure that it happens on our terms and doesn't catch us on our heels and spin out of control. By improving our town code and writing a new master plan, we can stay ahead of potential development and make sure it happens on our terms. Thank you.
The Kendall Mountain Ski Area, Recreation Area, is a great facility for the community of Silverton. Bill Alsop, myself, and the Public Works crew that worked on that approximately 10 years ago to install that chairlift that's there now, done it during the time Public Works had. There was no extra hours added on to that hour-wise. We done it within the town scope. We hired 1 part-time person to create what we had. At that time, there was talk about expanding the lift, maybe the same length that we have right now, above to open it up to the community. I still feel that's a great idea to do. I feel the town needs to look at the current ice skating rink and figure out what we're going to do with that to make it skatable and usable for everybody. I also believe that we need to put a commercial kitchen in the Kendall Mountain building to make that more useful also. I believe something like that, the town should spearhead and take over. As far as the current project, I do not believe the town ought to be spearheading this project. I believe it's a great idea. I'm all for growth, but we need to understand at this present time where our infrastructure is. We just had a fire at the Great Divide, and at approximately 6 a.m. in the morning, we were told to conserve water because the tank was almost empty. If we would have had 500 to 1,000 people in town that night, what would have happened? I just believe we need to slow down, go in slower stages, and make this work. I believe that we all need to work together and make this happen. But right now, the town does not need to spearhead this project. We need to have the developers come in and spearhead it. Thank you.
Calvin.
I just want to thank people like Gilbert and Bill Alsop for making Kendall Mountain Recreation Area what it is. I think we all find it very enjoyable and it's a beautiful place. I had my wedding reception there this 2 summers ago and we had an amazing time. It's great the way it is. However, it's becoming outdated and I think we'd all love to see a little bit more. Definitely we could use improvements in places like the ice rink. I think it would be really awesome to have something like a whitewater park. Everybody always wants more trails. Those would be easily accessible from town. And with talks of more lifts and more terrain, people move here for the skiing. So I think all those things would be good. They would increase the quality of life for residents in town. However, there are some cons. I think that when looking at an expansion project for something like Kendall, we need to be really careful about how we go about it. We wouldn't want to radically change the town in any way. I think we're all here because we love the town kind of the way that it is currently. However, we all realize that there are improvements that can be made that would benefit all the citizens of town. We would want to be careful of drastically changing it. I think that, you know, the SE Group's plan of making 4 lifts to the top of Kendall, well, that's a pretty drastic plan. That would be the highest lift in North America at that point. That would be changing the entire town. You would get people moving across the country to come live here. I'm not sure that's what anybody wants. People kind of just seem to want more skiing, which I can relate to. I love skiing, and a lot of people are here for the skiing. So I think we just need to be careful with this expansion plan and make sure that it's going to benefit the town and the citizens that live here. So we need to strike a balance between the quality of life and radically changing the town.
As a longtime fan of Kendall, I am very enthusiastic about this project. I've served with Shane on the Master Planning Committee since its inception, and I served on a similar committee years ago when the rope tow was being replaced with the double chair. I've long seen Kendall as a valuable resource for our community and for the visitors. I think enhancing the available ski terrain and services at Kendall from a master planning design approach has a huge potential to be a year-round economic engine for the town, serving as a mechanism that fires up other services and industries. I also believe it will benefit other ski areas in the region. I know my kids and the kids at school would be thrilled to have some slightly more challenging terrain to ski right out their front doors. And the process for how we're looking at leveraging this resource is right in line with the community vision. This project will rely heavily on community input as it moves forward. And it's essential that the town have some control over the product and outcome rather than leaving the idea and the project to a private developer. I do see some challenges. For me personally, it's challenging to imagine changing Kendall from what it is now. When that lift spins, it's magic. It's inclusive, welcoming, an enchanting place to ski. I want to be intentional in our planning so we don't change that experience. I don't want to be part of turning Silverton into Telluride, and I am not afraid that that will happen. I think if Kendall grows, the town will need to work closely with the project to align zoning, codes, housing, and infrastructure needs, but the town already needs to address those needs. Those challenges aren't cons to me as much as they are opportunities.
I would like to see Kendall Mountain grow slightly. I'm in favor of controlled growth because, as we've talked, it could easily overwhelm us if we grew too fast. I would like to see the size of the ski area grow a little bit, but one thing that's attractive to our ski area is the lift ticket's only $25. I wouldn't want to see it get much bigger, that the price would go much more than $40 to $50 a ticket. Is if you really want a full-blown ski area, you go down to Purgatory. We have the extreme skiing up at Silverton Mountain as well. And I like to keep this one just a simple one for families who want to come play. It's a good learners and beginner one. I know the school uses it, which is good, but there's other people that like to come here and stay here and do it as far as learning skiing. Kendall Mountain Rec Center, the facility itself, I am also of the opinion that it needs to be updated to where it can be used for more events that involve food. I think the size of the rooms could be expanded slightly to have larger events. I don't think there's a lot going on in the rec center throughout the year as far as community events. I know we have the Bar D and we have the Christmas party there, and then there's some stuff with snowscape in the wintertime. So I think it'd be good to see more year-round use as well. And I know we do rent it out, which is good, but I'd like to see more community stuff because it is a rec center for the community. Again, I'm not up to speed on it completely, but I'd like to see some controlled growth. I don't want to see it go fast because you'll change the parking, that's a concern. And then the facility itself, we don't need to overload our infrastructure in several ways immediately. Thank you.
In my 30 years of living and observing humans in Silverton, I have appreciated the conscientious approach of the Kendall Mountain Recreation team. With regard to process, openness, and community participation, this team is doing a great job. It is setting a great example as far as organizational structure and process is concerned. I think that it's important that we keep fear at bay. Just as it's true for an individual person's development, the development of a town can truly move in the direction of becoming its best self if fear is left out of the mix. Of course, when we look at various ideas, we have to keep an open and pragmatic mind. Regarding the worry of becoming like Telluride, I think all of us would agree that slick and materialistic are not high on our lists. When I was the chamber board president 25 years ago, we talked about the phrase Victorian mining town. We could probably do some more work on branding and clarifying our identity. We know we love our sense of community and the feeling of authenticity. The more economic vitality and activity that we have, the better it will be for all tourism and recreationally based businesses. It will be synergistic. It's all positive if we stay on the track of honesty, openness, and creative thought. There's no room for selfishness or conflict of interest. The development of Kendall is for the sake of all the businesses and families in Silverton.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank the volunteers and the members of the Kendall Mountain Master Planning Committee who have dedicated so much of their time to working on a project of this scale and magnitude. I'll also want to thank the public for all of the input that they've given during the public visioning sessions, which I have chosen to attend. One of the largest benefits that we can see to expanding Kendall Mountain is an increase in the economic contributions to the community during the winter months especially, but also on a four-season basis. We can also see the added services to the community, expanding ski terrain, facilities for a better ice rink, and some things that we've already implemented, like better grooming of Nordic trails, Frisbee golf course, and bringing in revenue by renting out the Kendall Lodge. As far as some of the negative impacts, many of the candidates have already stated that an expansion of this size will create many issues on the infrastructure of the town, further taxing our wastewater treatment system, our water treatment system, and our low-income housing issues that we have here in town. It has also been stated that we will have issues parking when we try to bring in that many additional users into the community. Sure, we may bring 1,000 people a day in on the train, but those people are not driving themselves here. They simply arrive on the train, step off, and then are on their feet walking around town. Along with public parking and a need for more low-income housing, the town's going to need to figure out public transportation. Unfortunately, I feel like the plan is unrealistic, and I would like to see a smaller implementation of expansion at Kendall Mountain.
Thank you. Growth is good. I am in complete and full support of a measured, smart approach to the expansion of the current ski area. This conversation needs to have true community involvement, real transparency, and an honest, staged approach. We as a community need to take a hard look at the extensive infrastructure needs, operational requirements, and most importantly, how are we going to finance this endeavor? The Kendall Mountain Committee has done a great job with this already. Example, acquisition of land, electrical needs, water and sewer demands, guest parking, workforce housing. We as a community need to ask the tough questions. What is the desired size and outcome of this project? Currently, the discussions are about winter recreation. That's a good thing. What would be the economic impact to those currently living here? I do not and will not support a plan that adversely impacts current families, residents, and small businesses. We love our town, and Kendall Mountain is our local treasure, and it belongs to all that lives here. Thank you.
All right. I think that there's almost all pros in this situation. The plan is amazing. I've taken the opportunity to read it a few times now, and I've listened to them talk about it at the town board meetings. I think that bringing more business to town year round is super important. The shoulder seasons in this town are very tough on our community members, and I think that this KMRA plan is crucial to helping us get through that. The increase of possible jobs is huge. I also am concerned, not necessarily, I don't think it's a con, but concerned with the infrastructure to support this plan. That is definitely something that we need to address as we're going through, and not just when it happens. And the size of the plan, I think there's a lot of fear, as Judy said, as to the size, because the misconstrued perceptions that I've seen from talking to people all over town of how big this plan is and how many changes to the actual mountain there will be. It needs to be really quantified and explained in depth to the community members. Nobody wants to see Telluride. Everybody says it all the time. And I agree with that. Also with the size of the plan, I think that as far as the funding, we need to look at whether or not funding the entire plan all at once is going to be something that's feasible, finding somebody that is going to do that, or if we need to break the plan down into the smaller points, and so that we can get it established quicker and get more bang for the buck as soon as possible, so that we can get more people into the town. Thank you.
So this summer, my wife and I are expecting our first kid, and there's nothing more than we're looking forward to than being able to take them over to Kendall and teach them how to ski or snowboard. Just to reiterate what Sally said, it is a magical little place, and I'm in support of the Kendall Mountain plan. I think it'll really help diversify our tourism and expand it, besides just being a very summer-heavy tourist industry. And I think a really important part of that is to have a diverse amount of activities over there. Not everybody is a downhill skier or snowboarder, and I think, again, making changes and working on the rink over there, or any other different activities, can help draw family and youth from our town as just another place that they can go and recreate. There is just a general lack of good places to recreate that are in town. Again, I think everybody in this room is in Silverton for a reason. They're not in Telluride, they're right here. And I think the more that we can make this happen on our own terms, the better it will be. Because the future is inevitable, change is inevitable, and the more we can control that and get out in front of it, the better it will be for our community. And I think a lot of people have brought this up. There are water and sewage demands. There are infrastructure demands that will take to get this done. but those are demands that will need to be addressed with any sort of development in town that would, put a strain on that infrastructure. So I think that's something that can be addressed while moving forward with this plan.
All right, so we're moving into question number 4. What is your community vision for Silverton in the next 5-10 years?
I'm not so sure it's a community vision, but it's my vision that I'm still walking in 5 years and alive in 10 years. So in the next 5 years to 10 years, I'm hoping that we do have the internet services that we need in Silverton. I'm hoping that we create more jobs for Silverton, full-time jobs that will bring families and students to our school. I'd love to see our infrastructure in place, what we need to have here. I believe the town is going to have to look at proceeding and looking for different water rights and stuff. Not everybody's aware of, in the summertime, we do get pretty good water, so we have 2 good water sources. In the wintertime, due to cold weather, basically you can't really produce over 350 gallons a minute. So it's something that we have to look into, is how to bring more water into the community. The other thing is, I think we need to see Blair Street project completed. I'd like to see the curbs and gutters fixed on Main Street and the sidewalks around town. I also believe that we need to get a good drainage plan for all the side streets in Silverton, so not everybody's having to walk through the mud and stuff. I believe in 10 years, 5 to 10 years, I hope people are going to find it easier when they come into Silverton because of what's been accomplished in in the next 4 years by streamlining everything and welcoming businesses and giving them an opportunity to create a new place to start a job and a business. Thank you.
Thank you. I think everything that Gilbert said sounds great, and I think over the next 5 years, the way that we can make that all happen is to develop and adopt an actionable master plan. It's important that we create more guidance around where development should or should not go, what type of development is and is not permitted, and that our plan encourages reasonable growth. That plan should include policies that protect the rural landscape, help preserve open space, protect the air and water quality, provide additional places for recreation, anticipate the financial requirements of our infrastructure development, and promote cottage industry businesses to invest in our economy. In 10 years, I'd like to have us executed a significant amount of that master plan. I've heard a lot of people talking about economic development and economic diversification, but unless we have people and businesses that are willing to establish themselves or relocate to Silverton, there's not a lot of substance to those ideas. I came up with a community development focused business plan back in 2016 that someone in town has been sharing to attempt to harm my campaign. I'm actually grateful that someone shared the plan despite their intent. The premise of that plan was to raise a lot of money to purchase and revitalize a number of the vacant properties in downtown, like the Hungry Moose, and to attract small businesses to relocate to Silverton by offering free or reduced rent for the first few years. The plan anticipated the need for additional long-term housing to support new businesses moving to town, and some beautification efforts, like improving sidewalks, lighting, greenery around those revitalized properties. The critique is that this might somehow turn us into Telluride. I can say with certainty that we will never be like Telluride, the same way that Leadville will never be like Denver. We are our own community, and with a lot of planning and even more hard work, we can maintain the nature of Silverton while returning to the stability this community used to enjoy 50 years ago. Thank you.
Sally?
Okay, I've lived in Silverton for longer than the 5 to 10 year range, and it went by much quicker than I expected. And while I've seen many positive changes for year-round residents, I continue to see friends and families come and go, businesses open and close, the population of the school remain around 60 to 65 students, and have a high percentage of free and reduced lunch kids. Budgets and projects that continue to rely on grant funding and boards covering windows in the winter. Okay, so in 10 years, our oldest daughter, Kate, will be graduating from high school. Betsy will be a sophomore. I'd like them to have Jordan and Megan and Kelly and Kevin as their teachers. I envision them graduating in a class of 6 to 10 kids rather than their current classes of 3 and 4. And like Silverton graduates before them, continue to have every opportunity available that kids graduating from larger districts have. In 5 to 10 years, I think the efforts we make now on the projects we're working on come to fruition. I see the ski team training at Kendall and competing all over the state. My kids riding bikes in Baker's Park. Going out for my birthday dinner in November at one of our bustling, delicious restaurants. Maybe I'll even need a reservation. I see some of the great work that many people in Silverton are currently doing enhanced and thriving, so sick people can go to a clinic any day of the week, and families can afford to live here year-round without job insecurity. Maybe we'll have a dentist. I'd like to see Silverton School graduates returning to find meaningful careers in warm, affordable houses. I see a winter economy that's become an attraction for year-round businesses and families to not just lose less money in the winter, but be able to flourish and profit all year long. I'd like to see the decision the town council makes resulting in a robust economy that brings everyone who commits to living in this rugged town the capacity to be resilient so that life works for all families.
I have similar vision for 5 and 10 years as we've heard, but I will tell you plainly, because I have attended town meetings and I have tried to give my input in the last few years, the town right now is not stable in its operation. Until we get things stabilized where the budget can be trusted, because I have attended budget meetings in the past where the first 25 minutes was taking the information from what we were given that we were going to ask questions on, turning it upside down to where nobody knew what was accurate and what was inaccurate, and nothing was accomplished other than that it would have to be done again, or the staff would have to do it on their own, and those of us in the public who don't have a lot of time could not figure out where it was and what was going to happen. That needs to change, because until the town is set on a financially stable foundation, we can't do any of these dreams and expect to manage them properly. Our infrastructure needs to be looked at closely, because I understand some of the plants that we have are aging and getting toward their design life. They need to be looked at. The money needs to be put aside and planned to where we can actually upgrade them and make them to where they will work and expanded so that they can handle some of this growth that we've talked about this evening. I believe once we get that foundation solid, then from there we can start courting businesses and continuing, as the discussion has gone tonight, trying to bring people in, get more full-time jobs year-round, and the town will slowly flourish and grow. I've seen it in the short 8 years that I've been doing a business that has gotten stronger and grown, and I'm very grateful for that, and I want to see it continue, but we have to have a solid foundation. Thank you.
Every time we have a calamity, such as a fire, now it's the coronavirus, it highlights how important diversification is. To be a healthy community, we have to attract all kinds of people that want to do all kinds of things, who are involved in cottage industry, who make things, who work online. To attract them, we need to play nice in the sandbox. If we get competition, that's a good thing. It makes us better. If we get mad, we don't bully or boycott. That creates fear and deprives the town of tax dollars. We need to grow the private sector, embrace and attract entrepreneurs and workers. The town is developing policies that take into account human frailties. As we are doing that, we are looking at ways of using our assets, such as Kendall, to enhance our economic activity so that 5 years from now, we will have more people living in Silverton doing a wide range of commercial and creative things so people don't have to work 3 and 4 jobs to survive. In 10 years, we will have accomplished more perfectly than any other mountain town, economic diversity and prosperity without ruining our mountains. We will have developed our brand, which could be built around wilderness and the natural environment. We will keep our authenticity by honoring our historic past without succumbing to ugliness and imitation. We will never become like Telluride. Honestly, I've been hearing that for 30 years. We cannot operate out of that fear or any other fear.
If elected, I would like to continue to support initiatives that would work towards giving the town of Silverton a more year-round appearance. I find it sad when I go online and read about people who try to come here during our shoulder season. They show up to town over Thanksgiving break to find all the shops boarded up, restaurants closed, and an appearance of a ghost town. With this, I also would like to find more ways where we can attract year-round residents, entrepreneurs, and of course families. These families are going to move here for the quality of life that we experience, and that is only going to increase if we choose to provide and build services around the community, such as a Baker Park Trail Plan, reasonable expansions at Kendall Mountain, Blair Street revitalization, and of course the library renovation project. For many years, the library has been deteriorating, and it's one of the finest services that the town offers to the community. We've been working strongly to get a plan together where we can renovate the library to make it not only ADA compliant, but also safe and comfortable for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Silverton is at its best when we're faced with tough decisions and challenges. I see a community in which we've healed our wounds, mended our fences, and moved forward with true purpose. A community that empowers the individual and incentivizes small business growth through economic programs and diverse tax breaks. We need small business, we need growth. A community in which we've been able to work towards solutions. More families and children. True medical services. We want to meet and exceed 100 students in our school system. True affordable housing. Meeting the state and federal requirements for our water and sewer treatment plants. This is important. Redundancy in communication and fiber optics. In 5 to 10 years, we need to complete our master plan. We need hiking and biking trails. Completing the renovations to our library. Riverwalk corridors, Columbine Park. Most of all, I want to see a community in which we celebrate our storied past while reaching to the future. I want a community where it is true that high tides raise all ships. And with your support in a few weeks, I think we can get there. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we have a very strong town that has overcome many obstacles. Even since I've moved here, we had the dry winter that was absolutely horrendous, and then we had the fire that caused so much anguish to this town. We have recognized as a town and a community that we can't hang our hat all on the same hook. We realize that we need the diversification. And we have amazing plans. I have never seen so many well-written plans ever. We have the Mullis plan, the Kendall plan, the Silverton Trail plan, the Baker plan, which is part of it, the Blair Street plan, the Columbine Park plan. I know we're revisiting the zoning and all the planning in town. We need to revisit our master plan, and we need to start putting these plans into place and make them come to fruition. And in the next 5 to 10 years, we could have the most outstanding community if we can just make these wonderful and amazing plans that everybody has worked so hard to come up with work, and start finding the funding and the grants and making it happen, because we could be such a successful community, and everybody could be just as happy as they want. All of our different types of people. We have painters, we have outdoor enthusiasts, we have people from all over every walk. And we all came here for a reason, and we all know what we need to do, and I think in the next 5 to 10 years we can do it, as long as we put all of these wonderful plans in place. Thank you very much.
So I think it's great living in a community like Silverton, especially in the crazy last 2 weeks the world has had, knowing that I could feel comfortable and going to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar, or in this case a roll of toilet paper perhaps. And I think, adding a couple hundred more people to town and still retaining that type of community is totally possible, and I think that can happen with a lot of these initiatives and plans that we brought up this evening. And in 5 to 10 years, I'd just like to see less population turnover. I'd like to see the same people I see in this room and all the friendly faces I see around town still in 5 to 10 years. I think that will, having that with stable year-round employment will lead to a really strong and stable community, a strong and stable school, and allow us to have this greater diversity of options in town. I think the more we can say, oh, I don't need to go to Montrose for this, or I don't need to go to Durango for that, the better this community can be, whether that's more access to medical resources, eventually having dentists or doctors in town, having a greater diversity of recreation options for our youth and our families. I mean, it wasn't so long ago that we had a bowling alley and a movie theater in town. It's not the case anymore, but you could look at it as moving forward or backwards, just getting to a level of population and stability that would create, again, that really strong community. And not forgetting that Silverton has for a long time been very progressive and innovative. We've only in our recent history been a quaint historic town. I mean, we had Tesla here developing new AC power plants at the forefront of technology, and I think we shouldn't be afraid to embrace that in our future and get out in front of it.
My vision for Silverton in the next 5 to 10 years doesn't sound much different from everybody else's. I think everybody's kind of echoing a little bit of population growth so that we can have restaurants open in the fall to go eat at, or better food options to choose from, or perhaps a dentist or healthcare, things like that. I think we just need a little bit more growth, and we need to focus on attracting year-round residents, people who are going to stay the whole time and be with us through the thick and thin, because we have hard times like fires and bad snow years and things like that. So we just need people who are committed to town. We need to focus on attracting those people. We need more year-round businesses, and I think the way to attract those people is just to grow and be a strong, positive community together. And we need to make improvements to infrastructure and repair things like the library, and make expansions to Kendall. These are things that are going to attract people in the future, and people that want to stay here year-round and perhaps raise their families here. I think one of the best attributes we have to town is the school. I think the school is extremely special here, and I don't understand why anybody wouldn't want to send their kids to that school. So the more kids we can put in the school and the more families we get here and the more year-round residents we have, the better Silverton will be, and be a happier place. Thanks.
All right. Well, that wraps up the prepared question portion of the evening. And now we are going to go into the now 1-minute answer to the off-the-cuff audience-generated questions. Thank you, Cliff and Colin, for organizing that. And there are some excellent topics on here. So, again, 1 minute now. So we're going to do a fire round. of 3 of these questions. And first question, if you are elected mayor and or trustee, what do you believe the responsibilities in that elected role are? Mr. Furman?
Thank you. I recently wrote a letter about this in the newspaper, but I think that the biggest responsibility of the mayor role is to create culture, to enable the town staff to do their jobs, to help wherever they can in terms of context, and to grow the entire culture of collaboration. I think we have a lot of really amazing people here that want to contribute, and I think it's best if we encourage that. Whether someone's been here for multiple generations, or their family's been here for multiple generations, or they're new, if they want to contribute, I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to encourage more community engagement. Yeah, thank you.
If I was elected mayor, I think the biggest thing for the mayor to do is to conduct a good meeting, work with everybody that's on the board, whoever's elected, and work with the current staff that we have. I believe that everybody needs to understand the role of the mayor and the town trustees, which means we do not interfere with any personnel issues. Those are all directed to the administrator. I believe the structure is set up, and if you follow the structure and you implement the town ordinances and follow procedures, everything else will fall in line. Thank you.
Mr. Baldwin?
I believe the trustees and the mayor are to manage the town. The staff, the town administrator, and the employees there do the actual work and get it done. However, the trustees should be involved in committees. We have not had those for a while. There's multiple ones, so that they can be in contact with the staff to know what is going on and to offer expertise. Each one of us as a trustee brings a unique and specified talent to where we could be on a committee to help a part of the town to make sure that it is doing well and it is growing. I also believe that we need to listen to the community. I would hope that we would be flexible enough that the town meetings would be such that people could come and give their opinions, and we would listen to as many as we could, and they participate, not just the trustees running the meeting and then shutting out the citizenry. Thank you.
So I think that we need to listen to our staff, listen to our town. I think we have a lot of strengths to build on. We have some work to do with regard to some of our town documents, like the town code and the personnel handbook, that have some inconsistencies that we need to pay attention to, so we have clarity about what people's roles are. And I think we have a great beginning of stability, and I hope we're going to be able to work on that and build on that.
If you choose to elect me again, the number one role of the trustee, in my opinion, is to represent you, the Silverton voter, my constituents. I promise I will continue to listen to you if you choose to approach me on the street, or while I'm working on the greenhouse at the school, or wherever I might be in town. I also will promise to support the staff that we have built over the past years and the ideas that they are bringing to the table, to work to benefit the community through upgrades, revitalizations, and renovations.
Thank you. Our role is to support the staff, support one another, to listen, to represent outside of our town and county. We are the ambassadors, we are our cheerleaders. It is our job to do this for one another, and to move forward. Thank you.
I think it's really important that we be representative of you as the community. We need to listen to you, and we need to be there for you. I think it's really important as trustees to be prepared, to be present, and to be engaged in all of the meetings. I think it's really important to be there for our staff, and to also realize that the staff is there for our support and not to hold our hands, and to make sure that we come prepared for all of the meetings, do our homework, and make sure that we are involved in the committees and we support the committees that are working for the town. Thank you.
So as a high school teacher, I teach civics. So I know that my role as a trustee is to represent my community and to represent them as best as I can. And to do that would be to make knowledgeable and level-headed decisions in the interest of my community that I'm serving. And yeah, I think that's it.
I believe the role of the town board would be to support the town staff, obviously, and just encourage positive engagement. We need to be looking out for the well-being of our citizens and the community in large. We need to address current concerns as well as look into the future and address issues that may arise in the future too. I want to be approachable for conversations. I want to be here for you guys. I'm happy to listen. I think that's one of the skills that I have. I want to see the story from both sides. And so if you guys vote for me, I'm here to represent you and to make sure that we relay those concerns to the town and make sure the town is operating the way we see fit. Thanks.
Okay, well, as a third grade teacher, I teach parts of speech, and some verbs come to mind, like make good decisions. I think those decisions would be based on research and learning that we do. Listen, that's what everyone's kind of been saying. I think listening, really understanding the story, the problem, thinking creatively, and supporting staff.
All right. Second community-related question. As a growing community, how do we manage healthy growth?
As a growing community, the way you'd handle healthy growth is by making sure your infrastructure is all in place, that you got a good, reliable staff to work with, and that in times like this, you understand where you need people in the medical business, and you would hopefully in the future that we would continue to upgrade the hospital and San Juan Nursing Health Center over there so that the community is healthy and we could get everything done right here in town.
Thank you. I think we manage growth by planning ahead, understanding and managing our budget, working very closely together and putting in the time, and keeping our core values at the top of every decision. Thank you.
Judy?
So I think that this is where it's really important to get the facts on whatever the subject is. Get the true data and the true facts, and that is going to be the basis for any kind of decision. Know the facts.
I think this is an excellent question. Managing healthy growth is something that I've heard from many constituents over the past 4 years. I feel like we need to continue to implement plans that will incentivize year-round residents and support and protect a diverse economy. It's also important that we continue to work and develop our master plan and continue with frequent upgrades of the master plan and allow for community input so that we can have a vision that is inclusive of all residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Managing healthy growth. Listening, observing, sticking to a plan, providing support and resources to our town staff, looking at the books, making sure the numbers work the whole way, asking the difficult questions. Thank you.
All right, managing healthy growth, we need to make sure we pre-plan. We need to make sure that we have the resources readily available. Execution of said plans, always reflecting back to our master plan and making sure that it aligns with our vision as a town. And just ensuring that the infrastructure can support the plan that we come up with. Thank you.
So I think managing healthy growth makes me think a lot of rock climbing. Actually, before you climb, you make sure you have all the equipment you need, you have all your knots tied correctly. It's the same thing with managing healthy growth. You're making sure that you have all the facts, you've done all the research, you make sure that it benefits the community and that it's going to be something that's sustainable and good before you just jump into it with 2 feet.
I think managing growth starts with the community, right? We don't know what type of growth we want until we get that input, so we need the input from the public, and we honestly just need more public attendance at town board meetings. It's easy to come to a meeting and see just a few people sitting in the audience, so that input starts from every one of us who lives here. And from that input, I think we can begin to devise a plan and create a vision of what we want our community to look like. And once we have that vision, it's just important to follow the codes and follow the guidelines and make sure that all the growth is being done according to how the community wants it to be done in the first place. And so that all starts with the vision from the community and then developed through planning. Thanks.
Gosh, I think this question is so hard, and I've thought about it so much. And I think it speaks to a tension that we struggle with as Silvertonians, because we want growth, and that word is scary because we want Silverton to stay the same. And so to answer this question feels like a little bit like a trap, because I don't know how to really talk about it without just naming that there's a challenge to seeing the spectrum. And I think identifying to manage the growth, I think identifying a spectrum is a good starting point, that it's not just one thing or another thing. I think it means that we have to make the next right decision, and that's hard, and it needs to be grounded in community values.
As I said earlier, we need to have a very strong foundation, because without a foundation, you won't grow, you'll founder. Once you get that foundation and a solid budget, you need to prioritize things. Pick your projects, plan for them, know what they're gonna cost. Don't just go off half-cocked thinking you're gonna get it done and then run out of money halfway through the project. But know what the cost is, have a contingency so that you can afford it. You also have to have a priority list so that if something happens, which inevitably will, you'll have some sort of catastrophic failure of an infrastructure item, you know which project you can cancel so that you can take care of that problem and then reallocate the money for the project that got canceled for down the road. You do not want to move fast, you do not want to do things impulsively, and you don't want to just throw a whole bunch of ideas out there and try to start paying for this and paying for that randomly. You have to know what you're going to do and do it methodically.
How will you foster stability and community unity to help make our community issues easier to solve?
Thank you. That's a great question. Leading by example, first and foremost. Letting everyone know that their views and viewpoints are valid, listening, and working through all the issues that come up in a collaborative and kind way. It's hard to make a lot of decisions where maybe it's 60-40, and hopefully if we have something that's that close in the future, we realize that maybe we don't have the right plan and that we need to reevaluate in order to come up with something that more obviously suits the whole community. I think there's a lot of opportunity here for us to come together. When I've been listening the last few weeks to everyone talk, it sounds like everyone on both sides of decisions are really talking about the same fundamental ideas that they are here for, that they love about Silverton, that they want to see in the future. So I think we're really close together, and we mostly spend our time fighting about the details. Thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate everyone here, all my neighbors, and everyone that recreates here. Please go out and vote. Thank you.
I feel that we could get along better. We just need to be honest with each other. We need to be more respectful to each other. We need to communicate with each other face to face. When we're on the street, we need to talk to each other and not go around way of saying mean and cruel things, and know the facts before anything is put out there. There's a lot of hearsay in a small community like this. I feel right now what needs to be implemented with the town is not so much a complaint form, but a comment form that can be placed here at Town Hall or online, where you can place your comment so it's addressed to the proper department so they can take care of these issues and so they don't become a street issue. I think we need to solve things quicker instead of letting things just smolder. And I think that's what happens with the community a lot of times, is we let everything smolder and then it explodes into a fire. We just need to get things done in a timely manner. Thank you.
Jess.
To foster stability and unity, it's important that we have continuity and knowledge amongst the town trustees and amongst the board. It's important that we come to our board meetings having done our homework, done the research, ready to ask the difficult questions, and maybe the not so difficult questions, but always ready to have interactive discussions with members of the community and other members of the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Fostering community stability. True collaboration from all sides. Compromise and consistency, that is very important. Each of us here tonight are running because we believe in setting the example. Because we believe in our town, and we believe that we can be effective and make a difference. And it will take all of us together. Thank you.
To foster stability here, I think it's really important that we have and develop a strong team, a strong dedicated team with one vision of creating a stronger community. It is really important that we set an example and that we understand and foster compromise, the give and the take. We need to learn that it's okay to agree to disagree. We all have different views in this town, and they're on opposite ends of the spectrum, and we need to understand that not everybody's going to vary in those views, and it's really important that that we learn that we have one common goal, and that's for a better community, and it's okay to not all agree, but at the same time respect each other's decisions.
So I think it's really easy to pick out things that we don't want or that we dislike, and it's much more challenging sometimes to find the common ground we have between people. But I think that's the most important part, to create unity in our community. And I think, again, dealing with misinformation very quickly and having civic engagement from our public, I think the more we have that, the more unified we can get. I think, again, we all have the base values of being in Silverton. We're all here, I think, for the same basic reasons, and then, we vary a little bit in our ways we interpret that.
I think to foster stability and unity within a community, you need to start with face-to-face communication and just listen to people and learn their emotions. You want to hear both sides of the story, and once you hear both sides of the story, it's important to just make sure you do your research and get the facts and ask questions and make informed decisions. We're all in this together, and I think the more that we can just see each other on the street and say hello and ask how are you doing rather than pointing fingers online or on Facebook, the better off we'll be.
I'm not sure I know exactly how to create unity and stability. I think at school what we've done is to approach issues with an open mind and look at multiple perspectives, assume the best intent, listen for common ground, what we share, and operate with integrity.
We need to earn we need to show credibility on our part so that you know that we're using your funds and your resources as a group credibly, so that you can have confidence in us, because without confidence you're not going to trust us, and that's when a lot of the arguments start. Also along the lines of I'm just drawing a blank here. The credibility is if you ask a question or bring up a comment, a concern or something, we need to come back to you with an answer to where, say you come up with a great idea, yes, we can do it in 2 months, this is what we're going to do, this is where we fit it in, this is why we can do that. No, we can't do it for 8 years because this and this and this is tied with it and we're unable to do that, or we're already occupied doing this. We need to give you real answers, real responses, so that you have confidence in us and we prove ourselves credible. Thank you.
So, unity and stability. Key in this has to be communication and not operating out of any assumptions and listening to people and hearing what they're saying at face value. And I'm not sure there are two sides to an issue. I think if we talk to everybody in this room, we're going to find that many different points of view. And we just have to be open to the complexity of differences among people. And I guess I really believe if we sit down and talk, we're going to find our common ground.
All right. Well, we are on the home stretch to the end of this evening. Each candidate is going to have an opportunity for their closing statement. But before we do that and close this evening out, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank each and every one of you for showing up this evening. We are living in really strange and turbulent times. Information and our lives are changing by the moment, and that is something that we all got to escape out of for this 2 hours together in Town Hall. As this event went on, I would like to thank the Town of Silverton, the Office of Emergency Management, Public Health Director, and Sheriff Conrad for all deciding to allow this venue to go. It is very important for our community to hear from our candidates, and it's also very amazing that we have so many people sitting in this room willing to step up and serve within our community. That says a lot for Silverton. So many people wanting to be a part of the public process. So I have much respect and want to thank each and every one of you for putting yourself out there and willing to take the time and opportunity, energy, and obviously everyone taking it serious to want to take on that community role. So again, tonight it was a strange venue. Let's just address the situation. We were able to pull this off by also creating social distancing, which is the new buzzword of the day, which means all of us interacting within this town and around our community, but with distance, but yet still loving and caring and sharing information, because we're not quite sure what our community is headed into or not into. Again, each day is changing. But again, I want to thank all of those who give us the opportunity for these folks to come together. Everybody showed up, and everyone had an opportunity to speak why they want to serve our blessed community. So with that, I want to thank everyone who is watching, for everyone who came into this room to make this happen. And then we are going to go around how we started. Every candidate is going to have the opportunity for their closing statement. And then we are going to begin with Mr. Archuleta and end with Mr. Weger, and that will be the conclusion for our evening. Mr. Archuleta, closing statement.
Closing statement. I'd just like to thank everybody for this opportunity of being here tonight and speaking with all the citizens of Silverton, and thank everybody that's running for town council, Shane for running for mayor. I think it's great to see this everybody involved and wanting to see Silverton grow, and everybody has the best intent for Silverton. I feel if I'm elected for mayor, as I've stated earlier, I understand the budget, I understand the infrastructure, the water treatment facility, the wastewater treatment facility. I feel I could accomplish and give the citizens what they need. I believe in growth, and I believe that as I do in everything, I would give this community 110% for the next 4 years. Thanks for the opportunity again.
Thank you. As mayor of Silverton, I will endeavor to work through conflicts in a positive light, seeking the best possible outcomes for all of us. The most important result of my skill set is I can be effective in working towards solutions that accomplish the goals of our community so that we can solve for problems rather than revisiting them year after year. I'm very grateful for everyone here. I'm excited to see so much contribution, and I'd like to see even more engagement throughout our community going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity and those tuning in at home. Silverton is a living presence. All those that call it home have an unwavering sense of pride and sense of community. Pride in that we are unique in our beliefs. We are not like other neighboring towns. As a community, we have sometimes taken a different, more difficult path. But we are led by and identify with the desire to live the truth that is Silverton. Nothing is impossible when we work together as a team. Thank you.
Just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to be here tonight. I think it would be an honor to serve with any of this group. You are all amazing people that obviously are very dedicated to this community, and I'm really glad to be a part of it. I feel that as a trustee that I would definitely be a good representative of the community, and I would work hard to see the growth and development done smartly and done well. I would be honored to serve as a trustee, and I look forward to working with you all, whether it be in that position or it's to continue as a community member. Tonight has been a great opportunity for everyone, I think, and to see different perspectives and hear the passion from the people of this room has been wonderful. Thank you.
And thank you guys all for showing up tonight, and our mayoral candidates who are running. It's great to see everyone out here taking part in our local politics. I know that if we had different conditions, I feel like we would have a pretty packed house here. The Silverton community is far from apathetic when it comes to local politics, and I really appreciate that. As a trustee, I would love to build a sustainable and strong community in Silverton, and it would be an honor to serve our small but diverse population here. And a vote for me for town trustee, you would get a knowledgeable, level-headed candidate who's deeply invested in the future of Silverton.
I just want to take the opportunity to thank the town and the staff for putting this on. It's not easy to get everybody all these microphones and the video and make sure everything's working, and it seems like it's gone very smoothly. So thanks, good job you guys. I also want to just thank all of the candidates here. I respect all of your opinions, and I think that we've heard some great ideas and had some excellent visions from the town. It would be an honor to serve the town and serve each and every one of you individually, so I'd be honored to have your vote, and I will do my best to listen to all sides of the story and make the most informed decision I can if you choose to vote for me for candidate. Thanks.
Thank you. People in Silverton are some of the most inspirational and generous people I know of any community. I think Silverton is so unique, and this is a really special opportunity to serve the community at a really important moment in time. It's a responsibility that I take very seriously. I'm excited about the possibility to bond with people around the table through the work that's available to do. I'd be honored by your trust and grateful for your vote.
If I'm elected, I consider this position as a public servant. I've been in public servant positions before in Denver, and the purpose of them is to meet the needs of the community and the people that we serve as best we can. I would look forward to working with the other 6 members and learning their talents, because one of the things that is important is each one of us has special gifts and abilities, and we need to divide that up in a way that each one of us gives the most that we can, and we're not overlapping. By doing that, we would really distribute productivity and get things accomplished very quickly. Also, you, the citizens, I want to get to know you and your talents, because you may have some excellent talents that we could bring and get into the board to where we can do something or change something in a very special way and accomplish amazing things. Thank you.
I think Silverton is on the verge of becoming itself in a way that will match the beauty of the landscape. And I think that communication is going to be key in that, and with all the intelligence and good ideas that I've heard tonight, I'm sure that we will develop our communication skills even more than we already have. And I look forward to that happening over time. And thank you very much.
I'll never forget my first time coming to Silverton over 20 years ago and just being enchanted, surrounded by such magnificent mountains and a beautiful landscape. Growing up in Gunnison, going to college at Fort Lewis and Durango, I was always driving past Silverton thinking, wow, this would be such a cool place to live someday. I've made that a reality, but it hasn't been a mistake. I chose to live in the mountains of Colorado, and I was determined to live in Silverton. I was able to do that through hard work, strong work ethic, and determination. Those are some attributes I feel like I've brought to the town board over the past 4 years, and if you choose to elect me again, I will continue to bring those same tributes to town board. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for coming this evening. I think we all pulled it off. Got in here and accomplished, which was giving these guys a platform and a canvas to be able to speak on the issues, as well as to give the community some insight as to who these candidates are running for office. I suggest if you have any questions beyond this evening, to approach these fine folks who have put themselves out there wanting to run from trustee, and don't fear asking them, what their opinion or any expansion of this evening. This was an unusual forum, so I encourage you to participate in our political system, to participate, to register to vote, to actually vote, turn in the ballot, but again, to make informed decisions. So please feel confident and comfortable to approach any one of these candidates and ask for any further details or any other questions that we weren't able to cover this evening. Thank you all for attending this evening's candidate forum, and thank you all for watching this evening from home. That's it, guys. We did it.
Thank you, Dean. Thanks, Kelly. Is your arm tired?
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Mel, for being the key nut.
This was
The goalie key. Timers on me.